George Alfred Ernest Birkin. Date of birth is the 18th of May 1924.
Were you born in Coggeshall?
Born in Coggeshall in just along the road here in, it's now, is it 10 West Street?
Oh. Is that where your mum and dad lived?
That's where Mum and Dad lived all their married life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, until we moved back into Market End.
And was your dad in the building trade then?
Dad was a plumber by trade,
Mm-hmm.
and worked with his father,
Mm-hmm.
my grandfather.
And I see. Was your mum a Coggeshall girl?
Mother was born in West Street, Paycock's Cottage.
Mm-hmm.
She had twin brothers, Hugh and Hubert
Oh,
Adams.
I remember them.
She worked for a firm, Farrens and Jenkinson,
Mm-hmm.
on Market Hill stores.
Mm-hmm.
They were haberdasheries and so forth, more or less similar to the one sort of people that are there now.
Do you know what year they got married? Well, were you the oldest child?
I was the second child. My oldest sister was Eva.
Mm-hmm.
She's no longer with us.
No.
And afterwards I had two younger sisters, Mary and Jean.
They can go back in. Do you remember your grandfather?
I do. He lived here, where this shop is now.
Mm-hmm.
We got pretty well together, but a little bit when I left school, I worked with him for a time until just after the war, when I was about 18, and we had difference of opinion.
He was the local builder, was he?
He was the local builder who was responsible for these 24 houses up in West Street, council houses, various parts of the area. He had little brickworks in Cone Road and Sandpit, and they traded from there until the war started.
What about your grandmother? Do you remember her?
Oh yes, her maiden name was either Cambrook or Cranbrook.
And that Coggeshall girl? As far as you know?
They were to an extent, but she had various brothers, sisters that were from the East London area.
Have you got a photograph of your grandfather?
Yes.
Father involved in the First World War, do you know?
My father was.
Your father was?
Yes, he was with the forces in France. He was injured. One of his feet were badly smashed.
So, I guess that your father went in business with your grandfather.
That's right. Yes. And
any other houses they built in town apart from the Coggeshall, the council houses?
Oh yes. There's one Tilkey Road where Philip Cowland lived, and he's had it altered around now. There were quite there was a row up in Tay Road, row of about 8, I think I was there.
Any idea when these were built at all?
They were built up until the ones in Tay Road are more or less dead horse work where they do when they're not too busy. And my dad's other brother lived in one of them, and then there were 8. I think there were 8 built on that site.
So anyway, what are your first recollections of childhood? What are the earliest things you remember?
Well, my father had a garden which he rented down by St Peter's Hall, behind St Peter's Hall, and he was a real keen gardener. And I remember he got fruit trees from somewhere, and he thought, where are all these fruit trees, and put them in the garden. And there was one small one which had 2 apples on. Myself and one of a pal of mine there, and we picked the damn things. And I got the biggest hiding of my life. I really got thrashed. I ran, but Dad caught up with me, and I should, every time I go past that St Peter's Hall, I remember being knocked down there where there's a gully, and as I say, I had the biggest thrashing of my life there. It didn't do me any harm though in the long run.
That was on your bottom, I assume.
I don't know whether I could even take time out to think at the bottom. I think it's pretty well all over.
Oh, he's pretty strict, your dad, then.
Oh yeah. But he was a damn good friend. I went to school, the Coggeshall School, St Peter's School in Stoneham Street until the 11 plus time, and then somehow or other I was supposed to have got a scholarship to go to Braintree County High School, but I never did try. I didn't want to go, and I never did want to be there. And
well, in the Stoneham Street School, what were the teachers like?
Miss Winnie, Mrs Winnie, she lived in Queen Street. Her husband worked at King's for all his working life. There's another Mrs Morgan, who lived somewhere before we get to your house. And there were, the headmaster was Mr Hearn. He was also church organist. There were odd trainee teachers that used to come in for a period.
Were there several classes there, or one big class?
Several classes, yes.
And were they mixed, boys and girls mixed?
Yeah.
Well, do you have a favourite lesson?
Coming home.
Did you have to go to church?
Oh yes.
Which was the Church
and
of
that
England?
was the St Peter's Church. That's right. Yeah.
Every Sunday?
Oh yes.
Did you go with your parents, or?
No, we had to go like Sunday school. So.
And who was the vicar?
The vicar was, he lived in the vicarage up West Street.
Did you have any treats? I mean, whilst it were...
Yes, I've got a picture there of later. That would be a few years afterwards when some of the boys went to a camp
Oh, I see. Where was that?
At Wheelie somewhere.
Uh-huh.
It was, I've got a photo of that. Where
So about what year would that be? Any idea?
I was about 10, I suppose.
About 1935, something like that?
Something at that time, yeah.
And that was with tents? You Wheelie were in tents or?
I think that, yes, they were in tents. I think it must have been the church that organised it, or the choir perhaps.
Were you in the choir at all?
I was ushered into the choir.
In the church choir?
While.
Oh, do you have a good voice?
I don't think that mattered much. I don't think I was ever a songster.
Well, when you were at school, did you have any special friends?
There was Charlie Newman that lived next door. He was just a little bit older than me. Chaplains. Doug Chaplin was about my age.
So you remember the pre-war carnivals, do you?
Oh yes, they were the highlights really. I've got various
photographs of
those, yeah.
Did you take part?
Yes, and I think one of the latest ones was I was about 19, 20 or so then, and we had like what they called a lammas loaf. That was a 2-tier loaf, and the oldest daughter, Susan, was dressed up in top, and she sat or stood in the top of this loaf as we took it round the
That's
village.
your sister?
That's my sister.
Yeah,
Mrs.
Was that before the war?
No, it's after the
After the war, yes. I think I've got Now, when you were a lad, did you have a bicycle?
Ah, yes. Now, grandfather had a job for the old publican at the pub corner of the licensee was a Claude Johnson.
Well, I remember, yes, I remember Claude.
Yeah. Well, he used to do bicycle repairs in his garage. Then the big changes with Hollington Brothers, and lots of girls worked there. So he opened a cycle shop right next to it. So as the girls came out of work Friday night with their wages, 2 bob, 2 bob, 2 bob, have the bike, and that was it.
Nice.
And
yes, I remember Mr. Johnson. Did your sisters work at the factory?
Mary did for a time, yeah.
I bet it was a big source of employment in the town.
There were a lot. I don't know how many girls there would have been working there.
Now, having got your bike, did you and your friends cycle anywhere?
Yes, well, it was useful for my granddad. Because with him buying it for me, which was not very nice, he had little invoices to be delivered.
Oh, yes.
So,
oh, I see.
It was almost a sprat to catch a mackerel.
Yes.
And so Muggins he had.
Oh, I see. So he
toddle
let you have a bike, provided you delivered the invoices.
Almost.
Did he pay you at all? Probably not.
Not really as such, but the old so-and-so, he wasn't a bad old codger.
Did you take part in any sport as a youngster? You play football? Or?
Played football, not too seriously, just as part-time, odds and ends sort of thing.
I mean, did you have a school team?
Not as a school team as such. We used to take part in.
So when you were 11, you went up to the big school, up to St Peter's School, the corner of St Peter's Road?
I went to one at Braintree County High School, if you please.
You did go there?
Yes, if
you
you
did.
please.
Oh, very good.
Much against my...
Oh, you did? I got the feeling that you didn't go. I don't know why.
No, that was out of
good.
disrespect, generally. I think one of the first things I did was smash my cap badge on the ground, so it knocked all the enamel out of the badge.
Oh dear. Did you get bullied there, did you?
No, I was treated pretty fair really, but I just didn't like it. I got, when I came home I got far more to do than muck about at school.
So did you, apart from helping your granddad, did you do any other work at all? Did you do a paper round or anything like that?
Not a paper round, there was always far too much to do.
Yeah.
Holding it, well, make myself a damn nuisance around the yard.
So you left school at 14?
No, I went to about 15 and a half, 16.
Yes. And what did you do then?
I muddled in with my grandfather for a couple of years, I suppose. And quite a bit. Then the war came down, didn't it? And I had a bust up with my grandfather, and I came to the conclusion that well, I don't see why I should stop here. Within a short time I must be called up for something, whatever. And so I left him and goes to sea to get a job at, there was the Labour Exchange then in Queen Street. And Mr Giddens was the manager. And I went to see him, and he was never terribly impressed with my grandfather, strangely enough. I remember him now, he said, I must find something for you, he said, otherwise he'll play up. So I said, I don't know, he said, I can't think what to find for you. And I was just over 17 then, and the only thing I think is a lorry driver's job at Tiptree. Well, all right, I'll try that. So he said, you can't do that. Well, anyhow, so he rings up, makes an appointment, I gets on my bike.
Yes.
Bike to Tiptree.
Yes.
Sees Mr Minot, the managing director, or whatever he was, and started work the next week, and stopped there, lorry driving, until I got called up.
So your grandfather, did your father work for your grandfather then?
Yes. Oh, he was a plumber by trade.
So your grandfather had a fairly substantial business, did he?
Average around about 20, 25 employees.
Did he really? Yes. Of course, there were other builders in the town, wasn't there?
There's old Joe Green.
Yes, yes. So your grandfather was, you know, a pretty important man in the town.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
But we didn't see eye to eye.
Well, when did he die?
He died whilst I was in the army.
Nice. So when he died, did your father take over?
My father carried on, yeah. You remember there was two across here. One of them was our pay club. Eventually, when I came out of the army, my dad said, no, you wouldn't stop with me. So that was it.
So you learned to drive quite young, did you?
Yeah, it was just. I've been driving my grandfather's old lorry. Well, not quite such an old one at that time, but I went these the smaller lorries they had with loads of about 7 ton.
Now, going back to those pre-war years, did you ever go on holiday?
I think we went to Clacton a couple of times, the family, but that's about all.
Did you go for a week or just a day?
Must have been for a week on one occasion at any rate. And you were quite young then, of course. Did you stay in lodgings or something, or do you remember? At Clacton, I think, yes, we did. That was.
Did you ever go to London?
Well, my dad had a sister who lived at Gideon Park.
Oh, yeah.
And we probably went. Oh, we did. We went. The kids, like myself and I think Eva, my older sister, we went to stay there for several days. But
did your father have a car then? But in those pre-war years,
yes, that was an old Morris Cowley open thing.
So going back to those early days, were there any eccentric characters in town? Any interesting people, you know?
Oh, Felix, the policeman.
Oh, Felix the policeman. Oh, Mr. Lewis, was that?
Well, Mr. Lewis was a little bit later, wasn't he? Yeah. Oh, he was nice, kindly.
Well, do you remember any of the policemen that used to be here?
Oh yes, I remember several. Yeah. And one in particular that apparently used to frequent the chapel, and after throwing out time, plus a little bit of chin wagging a bit, he'd make his way out through the back of the chapel yard, past there, through their garden, hop over the wall into his backyard or back garden, back home.
So the sergeant shouldn't see him.
That's right. And one policeman dealt with. He said, "What the hell do you do that for?" He said, "Well, you push it over the other side of the hedge." Lived in somebody's other patch.
What about the other shopkeepers? Were there were lots of shops in your youth here, of course?
Oh yes. Yeah.
I mean, can you tell us about some?
Where do we start? There's old Brownlee at the pub. Dick Alcott, the coal merchant.
Where was his yard?
Halfway behind the houses there.
Of the gravel, you mean? Was it on the gravel?
Just the back of the gravel, this end. And then he had a place up in behind here. Oh dear. Just over here. Where King's joining King's.
Oh, King's Yard up there somewhere.
King's Yard, that's right. Then where do we come? Old Charlie Clapson at the pub here.
Like the White Hart.
The White Hart.
I think I remember vaguely he was there. He had a 3-legged dog, didn't he? A bold black dog with 3 legs, I remember.
Oh, that's right.
It was a terrible rundown place. It was what I remember. But anyway,
that's right, because Charlie Clapson, when I started work at Tiptree on these lorries, after, for some reason or other, we got I think we were carting out a Felster sugar beet factory, and he said, have you got anywhere you can keep the lorry over? like, so I jumped and kept her behind old Charlie Clapson's pub.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And that was just right, because I could have made about a quarter of an hour later to get up in the morning and then go straight off to Felster Sugar Beet Factory.
Yeah, how old were you when the war broke out now? About
just over 16, 17.
Now, you weren't involved with the Home Guard or anything like that?
Ah, well, come to that. I was with the Home Guard when the war, or when they started, and they met across Charlie Clapson's place at the back there, and I joined them. They went there, yes, and then they had a transport section based at Tiptree, and of course, naturally, the boss on mine op was big white chief sort of thing, and they said, "Why don't you join our Home Guard?" So joined there, and it came so that we went to Tiptree on a Sunday morning. There was Dick Olcott, the coal merchant, Harold Harrington, the oldish bloke up Church Street, a couple from Kelvedon. I don't know if I've forgotten any local ones, but anyhow, of course we all went straight to Tiptree on a Sunday morning. And
What, in your lorry or?
No, in Dick Olcott's. He came as well, in his car usually. So that's.
Did you have a uniform then?
Oh yes.
I did. Yes. Did you do any firearms practice at all?
Yes. We used to go down to the ranges at Middlewick, was it Middlewick?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, and I remember we had one exercise. It was two of the drivers. Which one was one of them was Cyril Everett, who originated from Coggeshall. They had to take one of the lorries up to the stretch of woodland towards Birch, and more or less camouflage them. And all the rest of the platoon were taken out with one of the lorries and had to find this fatty lorry. And you wouldn't believe the antics we got up to. Talk about Dad's army, not in it. And anyhow, they did eventually find his lorry.
Were you one of the search team?
Oh yes. There were. Oh, I think there must have been 30 or more of us who told them.
Any other exercises with them at all?
Oh, we went to the Middlewick firing ranges a couple of times. And
now, were you here when the bombs dropped on the church?
That's another little one. I was working at Tiptree then, and I came home, and I went to came home a bit earlier evening, and somewhere or other I went to the cinema.
Yeah.
And the cinema, and in the cinema, warm. I wonder what the hell that was. That was bomb dropped on the church. And there's a certain lady that lives, she still lives in Kelvedon, and if I was to ever come across her again, she said, "George, do you remember the night the church got bombed?" It was she lived in West Street here then.
Well, were you in the cinema with her, were you?
No,
oh, no.
Strange enough.
I thought perhaps you were canoodling in the back seat.
Yes, well, that would obviously the first thing anyone would have thought of. But anyhow, for some reason or other, she was a bit shut up, and I walked her home to the end of West Street.
Yes.
And if, as I say, her husband, Jeff Digby, died some time ago.
Oh, Jeff Digby, the blacksmith.
Yeah,
Yes.
several years ago, and at his funeral, she mentioned this. Do you remember, George? She said, "Do you remember when you walked me home from?"
Anyway, you were called up eventually. What year was that?
43, would it be?
Yes. And what?
I had looked at it like we had further training at Bovington, both on.
Were you in the Remy?
No, it's that was rough engineering made easy, wasn't it?
Anyway, did you have to go overseas at all?
No.
No, no. Oh.
No. We jumped training and
So
we got back into a unit at just outside Blackpool. Home service, servicing and keeping vehicles like Brent carriers, armoured like
were you on that all the time, or did you have to give it up, or what?
Well, I did that until after the actual war had finished, and that's when nobody was allowed to be employed in the vehicle workshops unless they got at least another 2 years to service to go. So I had to come out of the workshops.
Oh.
And one of the locals said, "Oh," he said, he'd known me for some time, and he said they want a pioneer sergeant in the pioneer corps in the vehicle maintenance. He said, "Dude, suit you down to the ground, wouldn't it?" So I went to see the captain quartermaster and explained it to him. "Oh, good," he said, "because I've lost my man," and I took that on, and from maintaining armoured vehicles, I went on maintenance for general maintenance, which I've been used to doing before I was ever called up.
So, what sort of work was that? I mean,
Well, anything from a door in a garrison, you'll get doors smashed. You'll get somebody
mainly carpentry.
Mainly carpentry and that sort of maintenance.
When were you demobbed?
Got a demob papers in there somewhere.
Anyway, well, when you came out, were you married then, by any chance?
No.
No. So you came back into your father's business?
That's right. Yeah, we got on well. Got on with a house on fire.
I mean, had you had any particular experience in the building trade apart from doing odd jobs for your grandfather? Had you trained as a plumber or anything like that?
I was trained as a carpenter and joiner.
Carpenter joiner.
Yeah.
That's your major skill, that is.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you've been in the funeral business many years, haven't you?
Yes.
Have you had any awkward moments with that at all?
One doesn't have awkward moments in the funeral business. One copes.
Not to embarrass you or anybody else, just
no, there can be awkward things, but providing you're not in too much of a rush.
Yes. The doctors, go back to your childhood, the doctors at all.
Yeah, Doctor Dr. Moffat and Dr. Slee were the earliest ones. That's when I was
Were you ever
very
ill?
young.
Were you ever ill as a child? Or you ever had the doctor to you? I mean,
Nothing serious. I can't think of any particular. Got a hole in my leg there somewhere.
Oh,
I think.
that?
I don't show now. There was a hole there. You get a pea in it
Oh,
one time.
what caused that? A boil or something?
No, I just came across it somewhere and there was a stone in it.
Oh.
I came home and
Oh dear.
Mum looked at it and it's funny. Yeah, no, at Bradwell. I was staying at Bradwell with a grandmother, Mr. and Mrs. Adams. Well, they just that few days previously tarred and shingled the road
Oh yeah.
in Bradwell. Well, you don't never hear of that now, do you?
No, it's true. No.
And of course I borrowed one of the lads' bikes and I saw where they came and they went pea, just the side of a pea in there, and I went in. Because my grandmother at that time they'd moved from Paycock House to Bradwell, Swan, and one of those houses on the right hand side, the one at the end. And I come home and off and slid and so forth. Of course, and there's a pump there, and the other kids had pumping the water in, and as so pumping the water in, coming out the other side. Anyway, it's a hell of a mess, but ran in eventually and saw my old grandfather, and he's an amazing old son, so, and he pushed me to him now. He put my foot up on the draining board and come out with his penknife picking this stone out.
Quite nasty, really.
Yeah, he did it, you know, and he was sort of old codger's steady old boy. You trust him with your life anyway.
That's right. Yes,
no question about whether it hurt or anything like that.
Now going back to those pre-war years, really, I think Moores ran the buses around here, didn't they? Moores buses.
Moores and Hicks's.
And Hicks's.
Yeah.
Did you go to Colchester much at all on the bus, or?
Very few times, occasionally. Yeah, if I was on holidays, I might have had a chance to have a ride on the lorry sort of thing.
Of course,
and,
yes.
Take it in. And
did you go courting at all in your teenage years, or did you go to dances?
No. We would go out sometimes as old pal Frank Colton, myself, we'd go out Saturday nights.
Where did you go to?
All over the place. I remember one particular occasion that was getting towards Christmas one year, and well, we didn't know quite where we got to, and and last I know where we are, we come to the level crossing. That's the one at Black Notley.
Oh yes. How were you travelling? Were you on bicycles or?
No, we got the old car.
Oh, I see.
That's an old Vauxhall we had, and that was that. Well,
was that your car?
Yeah. Well, I actually bought it when I was in the army, and when I came out,
so we're talking just after
that. Dad bought it for me.
Yes. How much did it cost you? Do you remember?
£140.
Oh,
I bought it off
quite a lot of money for those days.
What's his name? Jack Brazier. I don't know if you would have remembered him.
Going to the war years, did your mother have much of a struggle with the rations and things like that? Do you know?
Well, Dad kept pigs.
Oh well.
He kept several pigs in Queen Street Yard. We had all of that yard that was Sage's one time, and he had a load of pigs there. And I don't know how he worked, but he used to get a load of pig swill about every second night. It came from, I don't know where it came from, down from London somewhere. And he had the biggest trailer behind his car, and he was on that, and he offloaded a lot of it to old Bob Browning at the Elm Farm.
The butcher.
Bob was the farmer, and then Rip, I think his brother was an army man, but I don't know what it was.
But your father must have been a very busy man. I mean, he was working at his job, looking after the pigs, and other things. He wasn't an air raid warden as well, was he?
Yes.
Was he?
And that was, Mum kept that as a warden centre.
Really?
As well.
Anyway, you came out of the army and you came back into the business. Now I suppose you gradually took over, did you?
Yeah.
And when your dad died, I suppose you came the governor.
That's right. I remember somebody saying, when Dad died, you didn't get anything, did you? I said, no, I lost a bloody lot. I said, Dad was here and I couldn't go around and say, oh, how do you get out of this trouble, mate?
Yeah.
Never forget that.
Yes.
I mean, far more use to me than it was having.
Yeah. Because you had Jimmy Pegram in the office, didn't you?
Jimmy was a boon.
Yes, yes.
He worked up at King's, and then he'd been in hospital a long time, and he came out and came out of the blue. And well, he was absolute tops.
I mean, money in the office was very important.
Yeah, it
well,
was.
It still is, but
well.
Now tell me, what is the biggest change you think from during your lifetime, from pre-war years perhaps to the present time or the post-war years?
It's such a gradual transference, really. Things are done so differently. I look out this window here. There's a silly little building there which put up for the electricity supplies.
Yes.
Apparently we always thought there was transformers in there which transformed or pushed up your demand and kept it down, and but it appears now it's semi-derelict and it's an absolute eyesore, but we used to be able to sit here and look at a pretty little place.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's gone. It's nothing but you've got all the electric poles, similar to what they have been for years.
Yeah.
Properties in the main seem to be maintained better these days.
Yeah.
It could be that more of them are
well,
privately owned.
It's usually because there's more money about, and of course there's more materials which the ordinary man can do, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you've hit it on
materials
the head there.
I mean, some materials have improved, haven't they? I mean, in your experience with the trade, I mean, you must have seen all wonderful materials come along. Perhaps the wood and timber's not so good as it used to be. But
what? But my grandfather had those old cottages down East Street for donkey's years, and the tenants used to pay anything from £4 a week upwards. Well, it was a help to them, as a help to him to a large extent, but now they've got, they've been modernised, they've been adulterated many times.
Yes.
And well, we did a lot of work to them many years ago for the county council. when they had a blitz on these old drums.
Yeah.
But now they're nearly all privately owned and doled up to make them well worthwhile, don't they?
Yes. I suppose when they were, I mean, a lot of the property at Colchester is extremely old, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
I mean, timber frame buildings going back to the 15th century.
Well, this room is exactly the same size as it was when we had painters here. Where you're sitting there, there was a big bench there. There was a nest of drawers up there with all pigments for paint colours. There was, but listen, 600 gallons of linseed oil in that corner.
Was it really?
And there was white spirit and all sorts. There was a bench towards the end there.
This was our part of the workshop then?
This was
your
the
father,
painter's workshop.
Painter's workshop.
And there was more paint made up here from pigments and so forth.
Oh, I see.
Well,
so that's one of the things you've seen change, that you don't make your own paint now. No, wouldn't think of
putty.
it.
Well, I remember.
You used to make your own putty as well?
No, that came in. But I remember one of the East London manufacturers coming, pulled up out these. There was a gate out here. Pulled up out there, and he brought a keg of putty. It was only about that height, about that width, and put the skids down beside the lorry and to come down under here. And I don't know how old I was, but I went to steady it, and this lorry driver, he went nearly raving mad. Don't get away from a boy, it'll kill you. It weighed about 400 or 500 weight, and just slide down, and that was a keg, just the one keg of putty. Then we had glass stacked underneath, but all this was, as I say, painter's workshop.
I suppose in the building trade, most of the stuff is pre-made and stock, rather than, you probably don't make so much yourself now. You don't make window frames and things like that.
No, window frames, well, even these were just bought in as they are.
Yes, you used to make all those yourself.
Yeah, all the windows,
Yes.
windows, doors, and
Nice.
that door behind behind you, that was originally in Paycocks.
Yeah. Oh, was it really?
It was the good lady that lived in Paycocks was, I forget her name, but she saw the agent for the National Trust and could this, but it used to open, you can see that's nearly 4 foot wide. When I open the door, it's so heavy to close, and you've got to have it open to get in. Can I have it 2 doors? So we had to make up a pair of doors to match that at the back, and this one was just dumped in the scrap until I mucked about with this old drum, and it got lumbered there.
Oh well, that's good. As I understand, Sam, that there were some soldiers billeted here after the last war, or perhaps during the war.
Well, I'm not sure. The Middlesex Regiment were in Coggeshall, weren't they?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's how the Colton family came to be in Coggeshall. Because, let me see, the Colton Senior, Mrs. Colton, lived in lodged in Stoneham Church Street. And then there was Rennie, Doreen, Stan, Frank, Ron. There's a big family of them. And the father was Regimental Sergeant Major, old Frank Colton.
Why did they come to Cockashall, do you know?
It was after Dunkirk.
Oh.
They came out here, and then they've broken up into various regiments and
I
so
see.
forth. He more or less organised the Home Guard as well, because they were headquarters was across the White Hart at one time.
So he
and
stayed
used
here.
St Peter's Hall.
So he stayed here. He didn't go away again.
Eventually he went away again. But he was. We got to know of various stories about him when they came out of France in the early part of the war. Some of the younger soldiers thought the world of him. They, there was a lot that had given the opinion that if it hadn't been for old Frank Colton, they would never have survived. Even in the water when they were leaving France.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Sam, do you remember anybody who was killed in the last war?
Yes, he was a lad that lived next door, Charlie Newman, one of a fair-sized family. He was in the RAF and he was shot down close to Chapel Thick. I don't know if you can...
Do you remember the traffic going through here before the bypass was built?
I certainly do. It was noticeable on a Sunday evening. As soon as the daylight had ended, you'd be two constables, one right outside this window where I'm sitting now, and one outside the post office, controlling the traffic with incessant coming through from the coast. Now it's peaceful. Oh yes.
That's the benefit of the bypass.
It's a benefit of the bypass.
Yeah.